video, we are going to discuss how do you record your mistakes. Now, during my CA final preparation, I had written a lot of papers for each of the subject. Now, naturally, I made a lot of mistakes in each of these papers. So I decided to write these mistakes down in a separate book, which was called the Mistake Improvement Book. Now, I had divided this mistake improvement book into 8 parts, one for each subject, and I used to, in a concise manner, write down what is the mistake that I had made in that particular paper. Now, a lot of you would feel that you're already writing the mistakes in a different color in your answer sheet. Why do you need to write it down separately in a mistake improvement book? I was of the same opinion. Then later on, after a few days, I tried to revise those mistakes, and I realized that it was taking quite a lot of time, almost as much time as I had taken to correct it in the first place. I had to go to the question first, then understand what was the answer I had originally written, and then look at my mistake. Instead, I could just pinpoint or give the little context that I need to understand my mistake in the mistake book in a line or two, and then I would just write down my mistake. So that greatly reduces our time. Now, since we are talking about mistakes, what are the kind of mistakes that we normally make? The first kind of mistake is that we forget some particular concept or get confused in some particular concept. For example, let's say you forgot a section number, or you forgot a turnover limit, or you forgot the name of any model, or you forgot the facets of that model, or you forget the index reference, or you forgot the essay number. So there are multiple things that you would forget. Now, during paper practice, do not feel that this is just because of lack of revision. There are so many concepts. Even if you revise it, let's say for 10 times, you are bound to forget something or the other. But when you write a paper and you write the mistake that you made, it is very likely that you will not forget this again when it comes in the final paper. So, writing down your mistakes can be very helpful. Again, you cannot do those things for all concepts. For whatever you do, could be the ones which are important and which could be asked in your final paper. The second kind of mistake is that often we read right, but we understand wrong. Let me give you an example. Let's say you read that the surcharge is charged only when the income exceeds 1 crore. Now, the line clearly says that it exceeds 1 crore, but when in exam there's a question that the turnover is or the total income is 1 crore, you might actually charge surcharge when the line clearly says it exceeds. So, what happens is our mind sometimes creates notions about a thing, about how we understand it. And even if we read it 10 times, we think about it the same way. But when you actually come to solve it in the paper and you make a mistake, that's when you realize that all this while you've been thinking about it in the wrong way, right? I'm sure this has happened with you too. So there could be multiple such things. So this is again important that you write down in a separate mistake book so that during exam you specifically tell yourself that, hey, this is how you need to think about it, right? Also, in the paper, you could realize that there are some things that are completely new to you. For example, it could even be like as simple as a penalty, which you thought was not important to learn, but it was asked in the paper, right? Or there could be a concept which you didn't really understand, or in first reading and you just skipped it, but it came in the paper, and because of that problem, you could understand the concept, right? Now, if you write these things down in a mistake book, you're actually learning the concept from that mistake book. So it becomes very, very essential to you for you to understand and correlate. Also, there are certain kind of mistakes we make uh, just while solving the paper. For example, when you're practicing a question, when you're looking at a solution and practicing the question, you know it perfectly well, you understand it perfectly well. But when you're asked to solve the same question, you would solve it differently and you would make a mistake. Now, there are a lot of concepts where this could happen. Now, one such concept that happened with me was, let's say, calculation of depreciation when consolidation is in the middle of the year. Now, when I saw the solution first, I did it perfectly. But when I had to solve it independently, I calculated it differently, which gave me a different answer. So again, you realize such kind of mistakes that the alternate form of calculations don't work when you actually solve it And when you note that mistake down, you make sure that you do not repeat it in your exam. Another important thing of important point of maintaining mistake books is you could also note down your presentation weaknesses or your structural weaknesses. Now, I don't mean drawing lines and all of that. No. Um, an answer, especially theoretical answers, have a flow of information. And often, because our mind is cluttered with thoughts, the flow of our answer is not as expected. Sometimes our main headings are also not are absent, or they do not correlate with the answer. So if you note these kind of things down from the solution, then it will be really helpful for answering future questions. Let me give you an example. Now, there was this question on the building block model which was asked in SCM paper. Now, this is asked in a lot of questions, like there have been past papers, mock test papers, where this question has been asked. Now, I noticed that most of these, like 2, 3 times when this question was asked, the answer was given divided into three parts clearly with three different questions. First was on uh, what dimensions to measure. Second is how do you measure the standards, and third was what are the rewards that motivate employees to follow those standards. And after that, all the theory was given to explain the concept or link it to the case study. So this structure was important to me, and this question could come in any random case study again. Now, writing this structure down helped me that I remembered or at least saw this once before I went to exam. Because during exam, you're literally loaded with revising whole of the subject again. And you might actually forget to look at your mistakes and not have time to look at your mistakes. But if you have a book where you have listed all your mistakes in a concise manner, you're bound to look at it and make sure that you do. Because personally, this is my own experience that there have been times where I've scored, or there have been questions of 8 to 10 marks, which I could write just because I had looked at the mistake book at the end moment, right? So it's very important. And the last set of mistakes that we all make, or at least I make a lot, is silly errors. We often don't read the question right, or we do simple computational errors. Let's say 2 plus 3, you write 6, or it's actually 5. It could be as silly as that, right? But you end up losing marks there. And even 1 mark, 2 mark is very important in CA final, right? So I would write these silly errors also in my mistake book, more so as a reminder that I don't have to do that, right? Because when you're thinking, you might actually make these kind of errors. So by writing these down, you're constantly training your mind to be alert of not making such mistakes, right? These books were very helpful to me, and it's not something that you need to borrow from someone else and look at their mistakes. No, this is something that you have to make, and it's better that you write these things down. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope this will help you prepare well for your CA final exam. In case you like this video, do hit the like button, and we shall be uploading similar tips and tricks for CA final preparation shortly. So do subscribe to get regular notifications from us. Goodbye. Take care.